Hello and welcome to Oh the Horror, where we all go a little mad sometimes. I'm Jack Ellis,
And I'm Matt Ellis.
and today we will be reviewing the 2009 remake of the 1987 slasher film, The Stepfather. This is a movie that I just, like the Prom Night remake, I just have sort of a weird unconditional love for. It's inspired a lot of my movies that you've seen on the channel, and in honor of Father's Day, I would like us to do an in-depth breakdown. Do you have anything to say before we start?
No, I think I'm good.
Alright, well, in a suburban Utah house, Grady Edward transforms himself in a bathroom. He shaves his beard, he dyes his hair, and then removes his brown contact lenses. As as he leaves the house, we see the bodies of his wife and 3 children. As police investigate that another family was murdered in a similar manner in New Jersey not long ago, which causes them to believe there is a serial killer on the loose. As far as this opening, I'll let you go first because I'll probably talk a lot about it.
Well, just first off, to make one thing clear, it wasn't actually his kids, it was
Yeah.
his stepkids.
Yeah, he's, of course, a stepfather who marries into fatherless families.
Right. And the beginning I thought was actually pretty creative. It just shows a guy doing what looked like a morning routine, but it kind of, first time I saw it, I would have thought he was getting ready to do something sinister,
Yeah.
not that he had just done something sinister. So that's I really did like the opening.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah.
pretty creative.
And, like I said before, if you've seen the movie on the show, Getting Justice, this, these series of movies, the Stepfather movies, were a huge inspiration on that. And one thing I loved about this, movie is how it opens with something that seems, routine, but it shows that something horrible has just happened.
Oh,
And,
and one thing I'd like to
yeah,
just add real quick is that I liked how for the opening this one, they did actually show the kid's biological dad come home and see what had happened. That's something the original didn't do that I'm glad this one actually does. That just kind of seems like something you might want to see.
yeah, in the original, there was a guy who was the brother of someone who was killed, and he's on the warpath for Jerry Blake. But yeah, I do like the sort of how it shows the impact of what happens, and then we find out that he's done this many times before, and that he's sort of a serial killer with a certain MO where he changes his appearance and his name. And this movie is actually based on the serial killer John List, who did a similar thing when he killed his family and then wasn't found for like 19 years after the crime. Uh, so yeah, that I I do like the opening. So Susan Harding is a recently divorced Oregon housewife and is shopping at a grocery store with her youngest child, where she meets Grady, who introduces himself as David Harris, and claims that his wife and daughters were killed in a car accident. Susan, who is looking for a new boyfriend, is charmed by David, and she rushes into an engagement to be married in less than 6 months. Um, this movie takes a lot from the first one, but also takes a lot from the sequel to it, uh, Stepfather 2, about how someone like him operates once getting into a new relationship. And I like that part because I believe there was one video essayist who was talking about this movie, and he said that, you know, serial killers, like, I like the serial killers in movies like Seven or Silence of the Lambs, but serial killers in real life don't get away with crimes for 20 years because they act like a psychopath all the time. Most of the time, it's said by witnesses that they were very charming and personable in real life, despite all of that being feigned. And so, I I like this look at how someone like him operates and lures his victims. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this.
Well, that's what to kind of build on what you said. What I thought was that I like, in the original, the guy Was his name David Harrison, the
No,
teacher?
his alias, and one thing I do like about this movie and the series as a whole is that we don't actually know what the killer's real name is or how many times he's done this routine. So that still adds a mystery, even though we know all about him. But sorry, his name was Jerry Blake in the first movie.
Right, and like Jerry Blake though did have a creep vibe, I guess you could say, to him, whereas this guy really just seemed like a perfectly normal man. Like I could really understand people not really thinking much of him as far as being violent. And another, I did also like how in the beginning of this movie they did like show the investigation after the family had died. Because like another thing that is, in my opinion, pretty relevant. And they said how he had done this with another family back in Jersey. So he really does go all around doing this stuff, and his MO is the most interesting part. Like, you see, you pay attention to serial killers, and when you study enough, you think you've seen everything. But then you've got this guy, he's targeting families where the father isn't around because he's either a deadbeat or just dead, and so then he becomes a part of that family, and then gets eventually just kills the family when they don't, I guess, live up to his expectations. That's a pretty interesting idea.
Yeah, just to warn everybody who wants us to get over quick, lately we've been doing a lot of movie retrospectives that are sort of skimming the surface. But this movie, I think both you and I do have a lot to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to really go in depth on a lot of things in here. So that is your one and only warning.
So you might
Yeah.
want to clear your schedule.
Yeah. And so Susan's eldest son, Michael, returns from military school and sort of gets suspicious of David. David invites him into the basement where he installs a lot of cabinets and tries to befriend him over tequila shots. Michael's suspicion starts when David uses a different name when discussing his daughter. After Susan says that Mrs. Cutter's warned that in America's Most Wanted ran a profile of a serial killer who looks like David. David ends up sneaking into Mrs. Cutter's house and throws her down the basement stairs and then suffocates her. So Susan's eldest son, Michael, he is played by the great Ben Badgley. He is famous for the television show You, which is very similar, and Dollars to Donuts, I think, was actually really inspired by this movie. And he's also been in movies like Easy A and John Tucker Must Die. And I think his performance in this is honestly pretty good because he's not the standard like detective. He's not the Dr. Loomis surrogate. He's just a kid who has suspicions about this guy his mom is dating, and that's a pretty normal thing for all kids. You and I both had a step parent, and so we sort of understand the suspiciousness that comes on with that sort of relationship. And uh, other than that, this is when the movie starts to get into its real thriller aspects as he tries to he tries to silence people and then make it look like things that would not direct attention towards him or even foul play, such as suicides, accidents, stuff of that nature. And I do really like that because that's always been a facet of this movie series, and I really like stuff like that, the sort of suspense thriller aspect of these movies. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. So
Well, yeah, the thing is he tries to come off as just the cool stepdad, like he's pretty much their friend. He does. It's pretty realistic the way he does it. It kind of seems like how you would imagine a step parent would probably do that, like secretly giving alcohol to their step kid who's underage, like, you know. And the thing is, it another reason Michael had a right to be suspicious is because he didn't even meet the guy until after they were engaged, because he was sent to military school because he was a troubled kid. Like, he even admitted that he was banned from the swimming pool at their high school because I guess he just did something bad. And you know and it's like, of course he's probably gonna wonder what's sort of going on here. But I also kind of think he's in a sense wanting there to be something up with this guy to be able to justify, you know, having a problem with them.
Yeah, and I think the military school aspect of it is something, again, because, like, the kid went to military school when he was 16. I don't think he has right to pull rank on anybody for being suspicious. But I think he recognizes it's sort of like a Hannibal Lecter situation where one troublemaker recognizes another.
And
Just
he
yeah,
and he was also surrounded by
yeah, yeah,
troublemakers. And like so yeah, I had some gonna. Oh, he also has a girlfriend, by the way, who's actually played by Amber Heard. So
yeah.
yeah,
um, Go ahead. Yeah,
and like he really comes off as creepy when he's just like always staring at those two or like making out or really anything, and he's not even like stalking them. He's just like he's looking at them with like the death glare when he sees them getting affectionate.
yeah. And one more thing I will say, I do love this movie. So I even have a poster of it in my room, the original. And there is a specific kind of X-rated video that has to do with step family. And so whenever I say, yeah, I like that movie, The Stepfather, people always ask me, was that porn or something?
Wow.
And yeah, so moving on from that, Susan's ex-husband Jay confronts David angrily about laying hands on his younger son Sean. He warns Susan that he knows something that she knows nothing about David, and doubts about David mount further when he quits his job as working as a real estate agent for Susan's sister Jackie, to avoid displaying a photo ID and other forms of identification. Later, Jay confronts David about an apparent lie regarding his college history. David clubs him with a vase and then suffocates him with a plastic bag. He sends Michael a text from Jay's phone that says David checked out. Okay. Um, On to this part. I am going to say something I don't like about this movie. Both of the main characters in both this one and the original do have anger problems. And uh, you can tell that the mask of being charming and likable is a very thin one. Um, but how that sort of comes out is like he literally hurts a child to get him to stop talking as opposed to like freaking out in the basement. And that part to me just is a matter of personal taste. I don't like. And also, you know, I find it weird that he didn't just try to get a fake ID or something. Because I mean, eventually you're gonna need that. He drives a car for God's sake, and that was just my part. But I like, I like the kill of David or of Jay because it's very similar to a kill in Stepfather 2, but sort of with a new twist, and it still has that thriller suspense level. But that's all I have to say.
And we also did we mention that he actually killed the neighbor who was.
Yeah, we did.
We did, yeah. So, but the thing is, even he wasn't really impulsive about it because before he killed her, he actually drove by her slowly whenever he was driving the neighborhood. He just looked at her all angry, as I guess just like a way of warning her to
Yeah.
quit talking to to Susan, and he did kill her in a pretty smart way where he pushed her down the stairs because it's like an old lady falling down the stairs that happens all the time. She also lived with a bunch of cats, so yeah, they probably had a goddamn feast. And so, and he also, and when he killed David, no,
Jay.
when David killed Jay, like, so the thing is, what's the young boy's name in the family?
Uh, Sean.
Sean. Yeah, like when he was disciplining Sean, it was just because he wouldn't turn his video down, and he actually put his hands around the kid's neck.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty. His true colors
Yeah.
definitely showed a little bit during that, and then so of course the kid's birth father just came in looking like he was ready to rip the guy's head off.
Yeah, like he's not taking that shit. So.
Yeah, and like everybody was just criticizing him for it. They were just like, even Michael was just like, man, you can't keep doing this stuff. It's like, dude, he put his hands around his kid's neck. Like, what would you do?
Yeah.
And so, and Michael, I gotta say, he's a pretty good investigator. Like, he knows how to figure stuff out. And he actually, he when 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 David killed Jay, he actually he sent Michael a message on Jay's phone saying, I checked him out, he's all good, hope to see you again soon. And then that's really when Michael seemed to be the most upset, was when he found out there was nothing about David to be suspicious about.
Yeah, that was actually something in the original that they said where, like, the daughter was like, you almost seem sad that he isn't a psychopathic murderer, or something like that. And, yeah.
So yeah, and I also like how in this version of the 3 kids in the house rather than just one.
Yeah.
And that the bio father is still around.
Yeah.
She did also, one thing I just have to point out is that Susan had the biggest burn on her ex-husband that I've probably seen in a while, where they were fighting, and he just said, make sure you're not spending too much of my alimony on your replacement for me in there. And then she just said, he's not your replacement. We don't need to replace you. We don't miss you. And I was just like, damn! Alright, I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, when the neighbor's body is discovered 2 weeks later, David tells the family. Michael is alarmed because he overheard David being told by the mailman, who gave less detail than David did. When Michael's girlfriend, Kelly, tries to get him to focus on college applications, he becomes more obsessed with David's contradictions. The situation comes to a head when David intercepts an email about Jackie about hiring an investigator. He then goes to Jackie's house and drowns her in the... Determined to discover what is in the locked cabinets, Michael breaks into the basement. And Kelly keeps a lookout. Michael eventually discovers his dad's basement in the freezer. David knocks out Kelly and traps Michael in the basement. The commotion awakens Susan. He berates her parenting skills and says that she could be Mrs. Grady Edwards. Upon Susan's stunned reaction, David grimaces and says, "Who am I here?" Susan tries to snap him out of it by saying his name, causing him to say, "David, I'm David Harris." On this, I do like how the suspicions sort of lead to all this coming to its conclusion, and, sort of him having to finally, end all this to avoid suspicion. And so, but the one thing I don't like, I don't think they handle the "Who am I here" scene quite as good as the original. And I know Jerry Blake's, or what's his name, Terry O'Quinn's performance is pretty much unmatched, but I think that, to me, the "Who am I here" just seems a lot more funny when it's supposed to be a really scary, creepy line. And yeah, that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, really, when it showed him, he had his grooming gear laid out on the bathroom sink bed to show that, he knew it was time to do this family what he's done to all the others. That part to me really was just like, oh,
Yeah,
wow. And, and Kelly, Michael's girlfriend, she actually was always really defensive of him for some reason, but she turned out to be wrong, and I mean, yeah, I don't really have much to say about this part of it. I mean, he ends up David Harris ends up actually convincing Michael's mom to not send him back to military school in the fall. So I think I'm just rambling.
yeah,
I don't really have much
I
to.
I got you. You're good. Um, so one thing I was gonna say is like Joe Goldberg, David Harris's goal is not exactly clear because he says he wants the perfect family and kills anybody who doesn't measure up. But I think his idea of a family is just the textbook nuclear family, and he holds people to impossible standards and kills them when they can't comply. And so that to me is really creepy, just as a sidebar. But Susan, after realizing the situation and noticing the unconscious Kelly, flees to the bathroom and locks herself in. David kicks the door in, shattering the mirror, and Susan picks up a shard. And when they struggle, she stabs him in the neck with the shard. He falls to the floor, apparently dead. Michael escapes the basement and finds Kelly. She finds Susan in the hallway across the bathroom, thinking David is dead. Then David approaches from behind the stairs and blocks the stairs, chasing all of them into the attic when he and Michael fight. Both fall onto the roof and off the edge of the roof onto the ground, where they lie unconscious as we hear police sirens. Um, this ending to me, after the mirror, kill kind of drags. If they had just had him get up and then tackle Michael out the window, that probably would have been better. But they have this whole thing in the attic where the roof is falling in, and that part was just, to me, not very good. But other than that, I do like the scene, and I like the last shot when the police are coming.
What I what I kind of gathered, this is about the media merge, but I think David Harris's mental condition is that he is more of a sociopath than a psychopath. Because the thing is, sociopaths can actually form relationships, which he's been trying to do with his family. Psychopaths can't. So and I kind of think, maybe he had a disappointed, to put it mildly, family life, and that's what he's doing now is trying to find the perfect family to compensate for that.
Yeah, I like that too because it's sort of he feels emotions. He wants love in life. He wants to feel stable and happy and safe and all that. That's not the symptoms of somebody who just kills for the fuck of it. So I like, what you said. I should probably.
Thank you. Um, and yeah, there's not really much I have to say. I have to say else. I think it's actually done pretty well, and like he also wasn't it in the original one where the stepfather actually canceled, like he called the kids school and said, they're not going to be coming to school for a little while because they're sick, or
That was actually the real life case of John List. He actually did that.
well, that's actually
He,
one thing the killer in real life did right.
yeah. Hold on one second. Please. Sorry.
We're having technical
Sorry,
difficulties.
yeah.
Jack's getting distracted.
Um, yeah, so After that, Michael wakes up from a coma and after about a month and learns that David is still alive and got away before the cops get there. The end scene shows that David has again changed his appearance and changed his name to Chris Ames. He is working at a hardware store when he meets a woman who is shopping with her two sons, and the movie ends. Um, I like the scene because it just shows he's out there. It's not like the ending of the first one where he's dead, and I think it's a good alternate ending to the original. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, I like the ending too. I mean, I'm not really big on
Yeah,
cliffhangers usually,
yeah,
as I've stated before, but I mean, I this one was kind of. And also, he didn't actually die in the
yeah.
at the end of the first one,
No, he didn't actually, because there was a sequel, but it seemed like he did die. Yeah,
right? So, yeah, I mean, I like this part, and
yeah,
I like the movie altogether. And here's what we'll do for this episode's session of what we do.
yeah,
So, towards the beginning of the one thing we didn't mention was they were all sitting around the dinner table talking about a news story where a woman got drunk and drove her car with her kids in it over a bridge. And the stepfather, like under his breath, just said maybe they disappointed her. And then, of course, that's really when Michael starts to get suspicious. So, if you put in the comments if you were in that situation, if you just heard that, what you do.
yeah, yeah. So, final thoughts on the movie. I think it's good, and I think it's a worthy remake. This is one of the best horror remakes I have seen, along with maybe The Crazies, Prom Night, and Black Christmas. But yeah, it's one of the best things that come out of the remake craze. What are your final thoughts?
Same thing. I thought it was really good, especially for a remake. I thought it really what acting was good. The writing, like it was realistic but not too predictable, and I liked it.
Yeah, a lot of great thriller aspects. And so I will give this movie, I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10 too.
Well, anyway, happy Father's Day, everyone. I am Jack Ellis.
And I'm Matt Ellis.
This has been Oh the Horror. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening, and happy Father's Day.
Yep.